In Genesis 1, before anything existed, God spoke creation into being. A voice that defined reality. And here's the startling truth. Research shows that who gets to speak, whose words are heard, and whose vision shapes society determines almost every aspect of social, economic, and spiritual opportunity for non-dominant communities, for marginalized communities. By the end of this video, you'll understand why creation is not neutral, whose voices shape the world, and how you can step into co-creative authority in your own life and community. In other words, aligned with both spirit and justice. Truly, this is how many of us have gone from feeling small or unheard in traditional spaces, doubting whether our vision and our words even matter, to finally realizing that embracing our socially prophetic voice, a vision for what the world can and should be, changes both our inner life and our outer world. Now, toward the end, I'm going to share a simple activation that most people in churches or socially prophetic spaces haven't necessarily been taught. But when you do it, something shifts in your confidence, your sense of voice, and your world. So stay with me. If you're new here, I'm Jason, and on this channel we explore progressive, liberation-centered, Jesus-infused spirituality that combines identity, healing, and manifestation. Hit subscribe so you don't miss our regular spiritual insights and practical activations. Now, we find our main passage today in Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 to 3 and verse 26 to 28. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. Then God said, "Let us make humankind in our image and in our likeness." And God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth, increase and subdue it," using all of its vast resources in the service of God and humanity. The Amplified Translation gives us that last insight. But before we go forward, let's plant these 3 seeds. Number 1. Creation is an act or an expression of authority. It's the speaking here that changes the reality, which tells us that voice, divine voice, carries power. Number 2, not all voices are heard equally. This text actually invites us to reflect, to think subtly about who is authorized to declare reality, and then whose visions or intentions are marginalized. And number 3, we see that the blessing precedes the assignment. Before humanity engages in this co-creation with God, identity, recognition, and worth are established through the blessing. Then the co-creative assignment is carried out. Now, this causes us to highlight the power of speaking into reality. Yes, in Genesis 1, it was God who did it, but before the chapter was out, the essence of God's self is saying, "Let us make humankind in our image and in our likeness." To no other creation was that ever stated in the Genesis account, that humanity would be a reflection of the divine. And if we are a reflection or an emanation of God's self, then even our creation begins with speech. Literally, words shape the cosmos. Understanding this helps us to claim our authority and to notice systemic power in society. James Baldwin wrestled with this and steered the ears of America to reckon with this when he was saying that not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Why? Because once we face a thing, we'll then begin to shape different words around it that lead to change instead of maintaining the status quo. Audre Lorde said, "Your silence will not protect you." When Neville Goddard, a Christian mystic, says, "Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled," he's talking about imagine things the way they should be. Imagine the ideal and think about what that feels like. Now, if you connect that mystical statement with James Baldwin's socially prophetic statement, we understand that when we imagine the world and the social climate the way it ought to be, we begin to speak differently and we begin to magnify different voices, which will shape the unfolding world. But many people think that creation is God's work alone, that their voice doesn't matter. But co-creation with God is empowered speech, especially when it challenges injustice or internalized limitation. What do you believe is possible for you? What do you believe is possible for your community? If this is speaking to you and you want a deeper framework for speaking your truth into creation, aligned with spirit and liberation, my Empowerment Masterclass walks you through step by step how to activate your prophetic identity first voice. The link is below, reimaginegodnow.com/live. Now, before we can co-create external reality, you might have heard me say this before, but we must heal the inner voice. Many of us at different points in the journey inherit doubt of various kinds, oppression, or silencing that blocks prophetic authority and your boldness to be free and to live well. Religious freedom, spiritual freedom, mental freedom, and physical freedom. Yes, even theological freedom. In other words, freedom from somebody else's idea of God that is mean and harmful, or how they interpret their holy text. Even Romans 12:2 shows us, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And I even love what Jesus said in the Beatitudes in Matthew chapter 5, verse 9. Blessed are the peacemakers. Why? Because that inner alignment will shape your outer work. But notice he wasn't talking about making peace by being quiet and silent or allowing the regime to crush all others, not supporting them, because Jesus himself pushed against the political agenda of his day. And yet he was the Prince of Peace, because it wasn't a peace that resigns others to quiet desperation and silent oppression. It was a peace that ultimately brought forth the well-being and the goodness for all. Make that kind of peace. And sometimes to get there, we have to engage in some challenging work, even some challenging, thoughtful work. Patrick Chang, who wrote the book Radical Love, points our attention in this way, helping us to ask the question, who gets to tell the story of our lives? We reclaim that authority when we speak our own truth within the context of the truth, which is you are made in the image and likeness of God, worthy and deserving of giving and receiving love and well-being. Bell Hooks steers our awareness in this way by showing us freedom is not something that anyone can necessarily give you. Freedom is something you claim and create and live into. Now, the problem is many communities are silenced and individuals internalize doubt and oppression, whether it has to do with your socioeconomic status, your race, your nationality, your sexual orientation, your social hierarchy. These compartments and comparisons cause many people to internalize doubt and oppression. But ultimately, when we align our inner speech with God's affirmation, our identity and authority returns, and we live empowered and move in freedom, psychologically, spiritually, theologically, mentally, emotionally, and moving into the affairs of your physicality and your finances and every area of your life. And this is why we must speak liberation into the world. Once our internal speech is aligned and realigned, because it's a never-ending process, this inner alignment shapes reality in more beneficial, beautiful ways. This is the co-creative, socially prophetic work of spiritual liberation. Jesus showed us in Mark 11:23, and this has social applications, that whoever speaks to the mountain doesn't doubt in his heart, but believes that those things which he says shall come to pass. He'll have whatever he says. That mountain of oppression, that mountain of misogyny, that mountain of homophobia, that mountain of racism, that mountain of economic depravity, that mountain of low self-esteem, that mountain of gender bias, whatever it is, if you believe in the reality where that no longer has the final say, no longer becomes the determining factor in your experience and movement in the world, it can move, or it can no longer become a hindrance for you and your community. Well, history has proven this. That's why social systems change and shift. That's why personal realities become, because people wake up to this. And people are waking up to this right now. Even in Luke 10, Jesus gives his people authority to act in his name. And when you realize who you are and how free and blessed you are, you begin to take on some authority to move beyond the confines of oppressive systems, even if people didn't realize they were oppressive. And so where do we take responsibility? Again, James Baldwin said, the place in which I live is where I must take responsibility. In other words, my own social context. Your context matters. Where you're from, who you grew up with, the people that surround you, the conditions of the world around you, your reality, your experience of that world matters. And if it doesn't yet represent beloved community or well-being or blessing, then you are a part of the tool in the hand of the liberating, loving God to express that well-being in the earth. It's not only elite figures in the political or religious or spiritual scenes that can speak creation. We all do it at various levels. And when you begin to believe that your words matter and your viewpoints matter and your thoughts matter, it'll shift what you do and who you connect with and who you align with. And different movements appear in the earth because people wake up to who they are. Every human being is especially those who wake up to who they are in God and who God is in them, have the authority and the responsibility to speak life, justice, and transformation. Now let's activate something further. Place a hand on your heart and perhaps over your solar plexus area, if you're able to do that. And then just breathe. Or if you're occupied, imagine yourself doing this. Repeat this slowly after me. I am made in God's image and likeness. My words carry life and blessing. My placement in the earth is divinely designed. Through the things that I experience, I gain greater awareness to what can be and what should be. I'm beginning to see myself as an agent of God to manifest greater goodness, greater well-being, not only for myself, for the society in which I live. My confidence to be free and to be well not only helps me to live a better life, but helps others to walk in the path of the good life. I claim my authority to co-create with God. I claim my authority to align with spirit and justice. Let there be liberation. Let there be abundance. Let there be wisdom and strategy. Let there be well-being for all. And let there be peace in my life and my community. Breathe. May it be so. Amen. If today's teaching resonated with you and you want to dive deeper into liberation readings of Scripture, this co-creative identity work, and activating the divine within, grab my book, Reimagine God, and explore the full playlist that you'll see linked. Each resource will help you step fully into the authority of your voice, both spiritually and socially. Dear friend, it matters who gets to speak creation. Speak aligned. Speak from your identity. And watch heaven respond. Not just in your life, but in the world around you. Remember, when you reimagine God, you reimagine yourself and the world that unfolds for you. See you in the next video.